Okay, I think I'm live. I think maybe I don't know. I'll go anyway. Okay, so this is a live show, solo show, solo episode. Just trying to see if I am actually live. I think before I got comments coming up on the screen, but I don't see any comments coming up here. I don't know. I'll go anyway. Okay. So some of the I put up on Instagram last week um that I was going to do this. I didn't know I was going to do it live. That was kind of a last minute decision. Um but I asked, is there anything that people want me to talk about? And one of the things that came up was the origins of the show. So some people were saying that they found the show recently enough and they weren't sure like how it started or why it started or whatever. So I guess that's a good place to start. So if you've heard this story before, sorry. So the show started about just over 3 years ago. So Filthy 150 was on. And it was a sanctional, so there was like kind of big athletes coming over for it. And one of them was Tim Paulson, and he came to the gym that I was going to at the time and did a seminar, and it was good. Like there was, like lifting, and it was a full day. And then afterwards, we went out for dinner. There was about, I don't know, maybe 10 of us went out for dinner, and I was chatting to him, and I asked him a couple of questions, and then, like, I was kind of curious. He had bombed at the games that summer. He'd admit that himself. He didn't have a great first event. He got cut. Um, And I asked, like what after the aftermath of that, like psychologically, what was that like? And he kind of said, like, oh, that's a good question. I haven't been asked a question like that. And that kind of sowed a seed, I guess. And then 5150 was on, went to that. And I remember sending Tim like recommendations of places to get coffee around because he was traveling around Ireland a bit. And one of my friends at the time said, "Oh, you should start." I don't know if you've ever seen that shit Guinness or Guinness. It's like a page that does shit pints of Guinness, basically, or good pints of Guinness, and it like puts up pictures of them and rates them. He said, "Oh, you should do that for flat whites because I'm quite particular." And he suggested I do that, and I said, "Well, I was actually thinking of doing a podcast, and calling it Coffee Pods and Wads, in meaning." Like talk about coffee, talk about listening habits and podcasts and stuff, and then like CrossFit. Although, like, since Savannah said the name wrong so many times that it actually fucking annoyingly is better. Coffee Wads and Pods is actually better than Coffee Pods and Wads, annoyingly. Um, because I think some people might think that I'm talking about an espresso pods when I say coffee pods, but anyway. So I came home from Filthy 150. I drew a logo on a piece of paper, just kind of absentmindedly, and then sent it to one of my friends, and he turned it into a graphic. I started an Instagram page. I asked the guy who suggested I start the show or start an Instagram page. I asked him if he'd be my first guest, and that was it. Then I started telling people. So I kind of felt like I told people I better actually do it now, or it'd just be embarrassing. Um, and that was it. That was the start of it. And I was actually looking back. It's kind of funny that I was looking back, and the first 12 episodes or like 15 episodes, maybe, like only 3 of them weren't in person. And I'd say of the whatever 250 odd since, probably the inverse is true. Like probably, you know, 5 or 6 of them have been in person. It's crazy, like the turnaround. So that first few months was all kind of local people, Irish people. And then I remember episode 10, Tim came on. I had the 2 guys from Talking League Fitness on around then as well. Armin Hammer came on. There's a name I haven't said in a while. And then the first year, well, the first, like, say December 19 up to March, April 2020 was very like, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, just didn't really know what I was doing, didn't know why I was doing it. I was just kind of doing it and it was fun. And then like from March onwards was just an like avalanche of there was just like COVID happened, there was lockdowns, people had so much time. I started messaging people that I had like I wouldn't have had any business having on the show in reality, but they just had so much time that they were like, yeah, like why not? I'm doing fuck all, so why not? Like I remember having Vellner on and a few people during that summer and just like I should like they shouldn't have like I'm sure if that hadn't have happened when I met them, they would have been just like ignored it. But then when I had those kind of people on, it led to this kind of um I don't know, like if more I was freer to ask other people, or it was more readily accepted if I asked somebody else because they could go on to the page and see, oh well, I don't know who he is, but he's had Vellner on, so maybe he's okay. And then it just was just an avalanche of like a snowball effect, but more aggressive. Things just got kind of out of hand. Like I was kind of trying to catch up as I was like running full speed. It was easy then as well because I had no work really. Like I was kind of working from home, teaching from home online, but like it didn't require a huge amount of effort. Like I didn't have to leave the house. So I had a lot of time. We had one child at the time, so I had a lot of time. And yeah, it was just kind of easy because I could just say like, okay, I'm going upstairs for an hour to talk to someone or whatever, and there was no issue with it. Because I suppose we just had one. Well, we had one child, and I had a very supportive wife. And then things kind of, I don't know. I think back then I was I accidentally, I suppose, became obsessed with like numbers and how many people are listening to each episode, and I had this thing of like, oh, if it hits like 400. I remember thinking if it hits 400 listens within the first, if I release on a Wednesday and if by Friday it hits 400, then that's a success because it'll continue like onwards after that. And if it doesn't hit 400, then something's wrong. I've done something wrong, or, maybe it wasn't a great episode or whatever. And then that kind of became a ruling thought unbeknownst to myself, where I became just obsessed with like the numbers. I remember I used to have a whiteboard in the kitchen and I'd have all the episode names written down and how many listens they all got. And I'd change it like, nearly every second day. Kind of became obsessed with it. And I just remember one day just like wiping the board off, where I had this kind of realization or a moment of realization where I was like, this is so stupid and it's not healthy. And it's going to become kind of like just, I suppose, chasing like a really heavy deadlift. Something else is going to suffer. Everything else is going to suffer. If you're just focusing on that one number, and then if you don't get it, what happens? Like if an episode wasn't doing well, what was going to happen was it wasn't going to, you know, inspire a lot of creativity or confidence in anything I was doing. So I just wiped off the whiteboard. Around the same time as well, I had kind of become obsessed is probably the wrong word, but I started to focus on like guests and like, oh, who's the biggest guest I can get? And I've had that guest now, who's bigger than that guest? Or I've had that person, who's bigger than that person? Again, that wasn't very healthy because you're just kind of chasing, I suppose. And then around the same time, I realized that the numbers, I kind of started thinking like, well, what do I actually want to do with this? And I just had this thought of like, I guess I wrote down some notes today of like what I should talk about. One of the things I wrote down is like that I'm the stage, not the star. So like it's not about me. The show isn't about me. It's about like giving people a platform to talk to other people like through me or whatever. I try to ask questions that you guys might ask if you're in a room with the person or whatever. And I try not to just talk about like, what food do you eat or what training do you do. I try to, delve a little bit deeper below the surface, I suppose. And my job is to let that person stand on the stage in the best possible spotlight that they can. So that kind of led me to keep, I suppose, chasing big names, as in just keep trying to have good conversations with, like, I guess, like famous people involved in sport, in the hope that if someone like, say, most recently Matt Fraser was on, like, okay, we had the Spotify Wrapped, so the creators get a Spotify Wrapped as well, the way you get your one with the songs. And we get a Spotify Wrapped, and it said something happened in March, and it was like 510% increase in listens in March. And I was like, yeah, Fraser came on. Like that's what happened in March. And he came on recently, and the hope is when someone like him comes on, or like Fikowski, or someone with a lot of followers, like I don't need people to engage with his episode or to share his episode or to put it in their story, because people will go on to um, Spotify and search his name and find it themselves, like people who are his fans. But nobody's going to do that. And no disrespect to him, but nobody's going to do that for like Moritz Fiebig, who was on the week before. Like, apart from people that he knows, who he says, "Oh, I was on a podcast, I can't remember the name of it." They're not going to search his name on Spotify, but people will search Fraser's name on Spotify. So my hope is that if he comes on, that people will find the show through him, and then by virtue of the fact that they're there because of him, will look backwards and see, oh, who's this person? Or that the page or the show or whatever might show up in their suggestions on Instagram, or it might show up in their suggestions on Spotify, and that they might see like next week's guest or a guest from 3 weeks ago or whatever. So the big people that come on with that essentially bring their own big fuck off stage light, the hope is that some of that will spill on to other people that are around as well. So that kind of liberated me an awful lot. That was like, that kind of happened the end of year one and the start of year two, I suppose. I kind of had that kind of freedom after that, where I was like, oh, I actually don't really care about how many people listen, or if anybody listens, it doesn't really bother me. Like if I put out an episode and I'm happy with it and I'm proud of it, it doesn't bother me. Obviously, it's great if loads of people listen to it and loads of people love it. But like once I'm happy with it, I just kind of had this thing of like, I'm actually okay with that. So that was kind of liberating. Then in that second year, I suppose between the first year and the second year, if you have any questions, you can put them in the thing actually, um, along the way. If you just want to tell me how great I'm doing. But I suppose I thought of myself throughout that whole period of the first year into the second year. So December 19 to December 2020, probably about halfway through 2021. Throughout that period of time, no matter how satisfied I was with what I was doing, I still view myself as a total fraud, like an imposter, that I didn't deserve to be there, or that eventually someone was going to find out. Like someone's going to listen and be like, "What? Like, how is this guy getting these people?" Like, and they'd all just in their like whatever WhatsApp group be like, "Hey guys, we should just stop saying yes to this." So I had that kind of in the like subconsciously in the back of my head throughout that period of time, and then I suppose that's when solidified a few times where I've had these moments of I get asked a few times like, "Oh, would you ever do another like would I ever guest on another podcast?" And I have. And the one time, so I did it once and it was released. And I remember afterwards thinking, I talked way too much. I was on the Clydesdale podcast and I was like, I talked way too much there, like way too much. I did not shut my mouth for like barely for breath. And yeah, I had this feeling of like, oh man, that was awful. Like I just ruined their whole episode there. And then I recorded two more on other shows after that that have never been released. So that kind of confirmed to me that like, oh, okay, you actually are shit at this. Like, why else would someone have you on their show and then not release it, like record it and not release it? But then I think I you kind of maybe I actually haven't worked through that. I was thinking like, how can I bring that point back around now? But I actually don't think I have fully worked through that myself to tie a ribbon around it. But I guess I've gotten better at my own show, and like assessing it as what would the word be, like um non-biased assessment of each episode, I suppose. Like I walk away from it, sometimes I walk away from an episode thinking, that wasn't great, like I could have done better, I should have asked him about this or that. Like I try, and if I'm listening to another podcast and I hear someone talking about something and the guest kind of glosses over something and the host doesn't pry, I kind of think like, oh, why did they not ask a bit more about that? And I do that to myself. Like last week Fraser was on and he said, I was asking about Mal, and I had this thing in my head that I want to ask. I've never heard him talk about. Originally, he said Mal was the only girl he was going to train, and then he brought in more, and then he kind of changed, obviously, with Katrin and everything coming in. I really wanted to ask him about that because I hadn't heard anybody talk about it, and I said at the start that at the start of where I was going with the question, I said, "Oh, you said you wouldn't go all in on coaching, and then you went all in on coaching." And he said, "Oh, well, I actually still haven't gone all in on coaching, but it's in the works or something like that." And I was actually listening back to it today to make a clip, and at the time I went for a long time. And obviously, with the benefit of hindsight now, I think what I was thinking was, "Oh shit, should I stop and ask him about that, or just gloss over it?" And I'm annoyed at myself that I didn't stop, knowing that I could just come back to the other question. But I think when it's someone like him, like when that chat is set up, it's set up on a calendar with a 1 hour block. And I always feel really shitty if I go over a 1 hour block when someone's asked for a 1 hour, like not, like that they've said, I can give you an hour. And then if I'm talking for longer, I just feel a bit guilty. Um, so I'm always conscious of kind of moving things along with people like him, I suppose. But yeah, when I'm listening to other shows, I think like I try to do the same thing with my own show that I do to other shows. So that has made me better because I'm less harsh on myself, because I wouldn't listen to someone like I wouldn't listen to, I don't know, Savant's show and be like, "Oh, why didn't you fucking ask me about this, you prick?" But I used to do that to myself. Like I used to not listen back, but I used to think back about interviews and be like, "Oh, why didn't you ask me about this, or why didn't you ask me about that?" And I had a few shitty interviews that, like, there's two interviews that I've done that I haven't released because of just how fucking awful they were. And the fact that there's two out of 200 and whatever this is, 56, like that's, it's probably okay. The fact that I know that the two of those were shit, than the fact that I've made peace with the fact that it's probably, maybe only about 25% my fault. Um, but I think that knowing that has made it easier to accept that, like, I can objectively look at the Fraser episode from last week and be like, that was really good. I can objectively look at Moritz from the week before, Leon from the week before, and think that was really good. Um, and then the hope is, again, like I said, that people will listen to Fraser and then go and listen to Leon, or go and listen to, you know, whoever else. No, I am absolutely not saying who they were with. It just wouldn't be fair, because they could have just been having a bad day. It wouldn't be fair to out them. Um, but yeah, no, they were awful. I remember I listened back to one of them, like part of it, and I was like, I actually spoke to Brandon Swan. So you can ask him, he might tell you. I spoke to Brandon Swan, and I was like, wow, I just had a really bad interview. And he was like, it couldn't have been that bad. I nearly did an Australian accent there, and I stopped myself. He's like, no, it couldn't have been that bad. And I sent it to him, and he, within about 5 seconds, replied and was like, yeah, no, you can never you can never let that get out. He was like, it wasn't you, like, you could tell you were trying. But he was like, no, that's just, and I'd say the person was just obviously having a bad day, and I'd say the same can be said for the other one. But yeah, that was, so throughout that period of time, then I got a bit more confident, I got a bit more, relaxed in what I was doing, I suppose. And then I guess sorry, the world was opening back up again, and stuff was getting back to normal, and these opportunities were still being presented to me, or I was still able to forge these opportunities to get these guests on. And like that kind of gave me confidence as well, of like, oh, they actually do have places to be now, and I'm still able to get them on, so it's obviously not as shit as I think it is. So that gave me a bit of confidence. Then sponsors started to want to get involved, around the end of 2021, start of 2022. Like, I think the biggest point of pride from, like, the list of sponsors that are working with the show currently anyway is, and in the past, I suppose, as well, that they were all like organic. Like, remember the Hybrid Academy, like, they gave me a pair of socks and we had a chat, like, in person. We had a chat, and just kind of a friendship grew, and then they got involved in the show. Same with Rad, like, Ben was on the show before they launched at Wadapalooza, and I just really liked him and the stuff he was doing. Stayed in touch, just organic. Same with Whoop. Probably helped the fact that Ronan, that's like the head of their marketing crowd or whatever in Europe, is from, like, an hour away. But yeah, all of them, like Goa, Thibaut and Goa, they're all just like nice people who got in touch, or I got in touch with them. Like, the reason I got in touch with Thibaut is I wanted him to come on the show, and he was like, oh, my French isn't up to it, or my English isn't up to it, and I doubt your French is up to it. And we just stayed in touch. And then I was like, oh, do you want to maybe get involved with the show, like with GoWad? Because I knew it would help me. If, like, GoWad are fucking huge, like, same with Whoop, they're huge. So having them on board just gives a bit of gravitas, I suppose, and extra eyes and ears. which can't hurt. And yeah, just anyone that's ever been involved with the show has just been an organic sort of, would you ever consider doing this? Yeah, why not? And then just grows from there, either coming from me or coming from them. So yeah, all that kind of sponsorship and stuff started around then. Um, and like, I think, like one of the, someone asked me like, maybe a couple of months ago on Instagram, like what, yeah, they're like, so our listener question, like the questions that come in on the little chat box thing, some of them are uh not inane, but like, kind of lower thought process questions. And then other ones, someone will ask a question, I'm like, fuck, I've never actually thought about why I do that or why I don't do that or whatever. But yeah, someone asked me recently, like, oh, a favorite quote, or it was something along those lines. And I went back to O'Keefe's, like, do the right thing for the right people for the right reasons. And like all of those sponsors, like Fitter came on board and they were like, oh, how does it work? And I was kind of chatting to them about it, and they were like, oh, we don't have much of a budget for it, like we're still kind of growing and we've a lot of big things in the works and we can't really justify spending, if I'd say, if I had asked them for what I was asking for a TV ad, they would have gone for it. But like for a podcast, it's a bit like, is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Still in that kind of zone. Um, but I was like, look, I don't care. I like you, so we'll do something anyway. And then lo and behold, a couple months later, they were like, oh, any interested in going to Wadapalooza? So like, it just shows that if you do things for the right reason, that they tend to work out. Um, so yeah, that all the sponsorship stuff kind of started happening around then. And I think as well, I kind of started getting a bit more confident. Like I kind of knew what I was doing. I knew why I was doing it. I knew what I wanted to do with it. I was still a bit like, there was a period of time there where I kept putting out 2 episodes a week, and I thought I had to keep putting out 2 episodes a week. And I think that works for some people. Like, I mean, Clydesdale, Savan, like Hiller, they put out videos or episodes or whatever, like, sometimes more than one a day. And like, fair play, but like, I have a job and 2 kids, under 3, and it's not feasible. And I think as well, it probably puts, in my opinion, from what I'm doing, it puts pressure on people to listen or to choose, like, oh, which one this week will I listen to? Whereas when it's one a week, I'm giving people like, they have 7 days to listen to that episode, not just 2, or fall behind. And I've had that, say, like, I used to listen to Savan's show the whole time, and then I fell behind and I got kind of overawed of like, oh Jesus, like, where do I start to catch up? Do I just jump in with today's, or do I go back to 2 months ago when I last had a chance to listen or whatever? So I think I don't want to do that with people. So I think one a week suits, and then the odd time, maybe around the Open or around the games or whatever, there might be more. But I think one a week is just, it's perfect. And then yeah, so coming into this year, then I suppose throughout this year, things kind of changed a bit, where I got more like different opportunities. I suppose I started writing articles with Barbell Spin again. That was just organic, kind of chatting to him, and asked, like, I wonder would I be good at it, and kind of suggested to him. He's like, yeah, go for it, like, no pressure. Did it, enjoyed it. I'll probably keep doing it. That's a very casual relationship, though. It's not like, I don't have deadlines or anything, so that kind of suits me. And then yeah, I started writing a book. I can't really say too much about that yet. Probably shouldn't have even brought that up, to be honest, but fuck it, here we are. Going to Wadapalooza, that'll be very different. I was at semi-finals in Europe last year, and that kind of gave me a taste of, I remember going to Lowlands and just feeling like I didn't belong at all, didn't know what I was supposed to be doing, didn't have a clear idea of what I wanted to do. And I remember I went with Vincent, and he was like, man, you need to know, like, between Lowlands and London, he was like, you need to really fucking think about what you're going to do now when you go to London, because you don't want to have the same experience where you're just kind of sitting on your hands, like waiting for something to fall into your lap. So I did. I had more of a plan when I went to London. I kind of focused on 80/20, and that worked out well. And I just kind of, I had more balls, I think, and was like, right, I'm going to corner people and ask them to talk to them or whatever. Whereas I wasted the first couple of days in Lowlands being like, feeling shut out and feeling like I couldn't. And I was just telling myself a story. Like, I was just kind of, like, not doing it, because if I did it and it was shit, I looked shit. Whereas, like, not by not doing it, I just didn't even fucking try and do it. And yeah, it worked. Lowlands ended up working out well towards the end. Rob Lawson helped me kind of get to where I probably shouldn't have been allowed to go, and that gave me access to people. And then people were very gracious and they're very nice. Like I kind of a bit of a roller coaster of emotions that weekend of say Friday feeling like I didn't belong, like Saturday same, and then Sunday I had people who had been on the show coming up and saying hello, and people who had listened to the show coming up and saying hello, and that kind of gave me a bit more confidence. And then yeah, Rob got me in and got chatting to people, and you know, it kind of grew from there. And then London afterwards, really good again. Um, and that kind of gives me a bit of confidence then going up to Wadapalooza. And I'd say like Wadapalooza probably very different, like strength and depth and that kind of stuff. The videos were kind of like reactionary to workouts and to, you know, how's your weekend going and that kind of stuff. I'd say like Wadapalooza would be a lot more I don't want to say stupid, but like silly kind of videos, like you know, similar to the kind of reels I've been making. I suppose I've just kind of taken the piss out of myself and taken this piss out of CrossFit a bit and the athletes and whatever else. So yeah, the reels are another thing that started this year of just kind of taking the piss out of things and having a bit of fun with it. Um, and then yeah, there's and someone else asked me to compare the 3 years. I think that's probably the biggest arc is like year one, like not knowing what I was doing, but doing it anyway, coming up and like going across like year two, I suppose, feeling like I should know what I'm doing, but still not really knowing what I'm doing and not being confident in it. And then coming into year three and the end of year three of like actually feeling like I know what I'm doing and that I'm good at it and that I can keep doing it, or I can even branch out into other things and see how they go. And if they don't work, just come back, but just try it. So I think that's taken me a while to get that level of confidence where I can just be like, oh fuck it, I'll try it and see. Like barbell spin, I was just like, fuck it, I'll give it a go and see what happens. Writing the book was like, oh, let's just see if they go for it and if they like the idea, and like if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and if it does work, it does work, and great and whatever. And it's just an experience. Um, are you driven by an overarching goal or plan, or is it more just seeing what happens? To be honest, like there's no like where do I go with it? Like am I, you know, there's no there's no trajectory for this kind of thing. It's not like um you know, it's not like radio, I guess, where you might start off as a uh, runner, or you know, whatever that's the TV term, whatever the radio term for that is, like a assistant producer or something, and then a producer, and then a presenter, or doing like the traffic, and then doing the entertainment, and then doing oh, then eventually I'll get my own show, and then I'll get, you know, a drive time show or a breakfast show or whatever else. It doesn't really work like that with this. I think I start off. Uh, I remember one of my goals for the year that is ending now was I want to be justifiably at an event. Like I want to be at an event with like credentials, like media credentials or whatever, and like justifiably, like be able to stand over and say, yes, I'm here as media, and not have people be like, what the fuck are you doing here? And I think I got that with strength and depth, and I will have it again with Wadapalooza. So I think that was one of my goals for the year, was to like to feel like I belong somewhere when I'm there, and to feel comfortable asking people questions. And I think I do feel that. And I'll continue to feel that, I think. The book, what can you tell us about it? Fuck all, to be honest. I have the first draft of the first chapter written. I'm writing it with someone, or for someone, or with and for someone, I don't know. It's not about me or anything. It's like actually an interesting story. And what can I tell you about it? Basically, can't really tell you anything. I can tell you I'm writing it, and I can tell you I'm writing it for or with someone else. Don't know if it's going to be like ghost written or if it's going to be like my name on it or whatever. But we're just kind of seeing how it goes, because we kind of both want to do it, but we're not sure with just the way that things work. It's kind of hard. Like it's very hard to get a CrossFit book published. Like it's quite difficult unless you're, you know, I'm looking at Catherine's book and Ben Bergeron's book and Fraser's book on my shelf here, and they're like, you know, it's very different if you're those people. But I think it has to be kind of, in general, from what I've heard, it has to be like self-published nearly. So obviously that's going to be tricky, and you know, it's all a learning experience. So I don't want to start saying, I don't want to put pressure on the person that I'm doing it with to be like, hey, I've started telling people or whatever. We kind of just agreed that we wait and see for a little while until things get like, you know, more concrete, and then we can, you know, put a bit of a push on it. But I'd say like, you know, 2023, at some point, it'll be finished. That's my hope anyway. The end of the summer, I hope for it to be finished. Um, hopefully. I should probably write more than the first chapter and then start saying stuff like that. But I'm pretty confident. Yeah, I'm pretty. Yeah, end of the summer. We'll say it now. Same as I said, I'm going to start the podcast. I'm going to write a book by the end of the summer. Um, um, yeah. So comparing the 3 years. Um, so the first year didn't know what I was doing. Second year started to kind of figure it out, but still felt like a bit of an imposter. Third year started to feel confident, started to understand, like I have a really clear, concrete vision of what I was doing. And then that gave me the confidence to be like, fuck it, I'm gonna try some new stuff. I'm gonna make some reels. I'm gonna like upgrade the studio and stuff and make it look a bit better. I have a cough coming. Sorry. I'm gonna upgrade the studio, make it look a bit better. I'm gonna increase the production value by doing stuff like that, and I have like a light and stuff, which somehow makes me look fucking paler, which is like really frustrating. Um, so yeah, that was year three. Was really a push on like feel like starting to feel like I belong, and then making it want to seem like walking into this room and making it feel like it's official and it's an actual office and it's there's work to be done in it rather than just like what will I do now. Um, Then someone else asked if I see any curveballs coming in 2023 or like in the next few years. So I think interesting. Um, I don't know if you guys saw. I had it in the news last week that Fit Wars were on, and recently enough, I had it that Zalos games are on. So you might have seen it there. You might have seen like Wad Zombie is doing Fit Wars, and Jared from Underdogs is doing Zalos games. And I think as like curveballs go, I think the two of those are a little insight into what's coming. I think there's going to be a shift towards like that sort of entertainment and earning opportunities for athletes, and a shift away from there's these set structure of competitions that are in person, that you have to qualify for, and you go and you do this and that and whatever, and it's a whole 4 days and blah blah blah, and you might get something out of it, you might not, and maybe your sponsor might pay for it. I think stuff like Fit Wars and Zalos Games covered as much cost as they could as well, with people going to Vegas and that kind of stuff. But I think it gives an opportunity for people to be like, hey, I can make a decent bit of money here over like for Fit Wars, like over like one workout. Or I could make a decent bit of money if like I could have a little trip to Vegas and make a bit of money or whatever. So I think it gives, especially with Zalos as well, and with Fit Wars as well, I suppose, where it was athletes that are like just outside that, like what would you call it, like that upper echelon of athletes, like just below that. So it gives people like that an opportunity. I think that kind of stuff is going to be pretty interesting. So I'd say I'm excited to see more from Fit Wars. They're on Instagram. Fuck, I don't have my phone. Fit Wars at Fit Wars Live, I think. And then Zalos Games is easy enough to find as well. But if you go Wad Zombie, there's Wad Zombie there actually. I think I clicked that made a live solo show, but here I am. Okay, sorry to disappoint. But anyway, that's Wad Zombie. So that's Nick. He's in charge of. He's the big boss, big dick boss of Fit Wars, and that was on last weekend. That was Colton Mertens and Scott Tetlow, and they just did a workout. Brian Friend and Hiller commentated on it. It was good. It was enjoyable. Earning opportunity, bit of fun. I think that kind of stuff. There's going to be more of that kind of stuff in the next few years, which is cool. It's exciting. It opens it up to other people as well, to who might have an idea and want to start something but can't afford to rent out a big fuck off arena or whatever, or are afraid of not attracting athletes if it's in the season or too close to the season or whatever. Someone else asked, can competition and media be saved? I might be messing up the way they asked the question, but it was something along those lines. I actually saw Hiller put out a video today or yesterday, maybe, saying that CrossFit will be dead in 3 years, which like it's probably hyperbolic, but it's going to get clicks, I suppose. But Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Like media, the media side of things is interesting. Where so there's kind of the two different sides of media. Well, there's like heaps of different sides, but say there's the two. There's like in-house and out-house. So there's in-house of, say, like the videos which have basically been non-existent up until like very recently, that say like Torrance Simpson and those kind of people do, like Michael Dalton and those of outside of the, so you've got like the games media, but outside of that, of doing like stories about people and affiliates or affiliate owners or athletes or regular Joes and Joannes going to affiliates or whatever. You've got those kind of videos that are, they seem to be starting to come back a little bit more and more, but there needs to be an awful lot more of them, I guess. That's you know that's the free advertising basically for the affiliates, more so stateside, I think, than anywhere else. But like if you have, you can show your friend the video of the gym or whatever, and it might encourage them to go down. But I think there's so few of those videos made. I don't know if there's ever been a video made about an Irish affiliate. So I don't know if, I don't know what impact they have on affiliates here or in like fucking, I don't know, Sweden or whatever. So I don't know if it's as important to the rest of the world as it is to America, those kind of affiliate videos, but I still think they are, like, they're useful to some people anyway. And then you also have the out, like the media, like the unofficial media, I suppose, where you have people like me, Jason from CrossFit Bath, Jason CrossFit Media, or Hiller, or Savan, or Clydesdale, like Scott and his team, Barbell Spin, Morning Chalk Up, um, Talking Elite Fitness. Fluffy Duck is doing a show now. Josh Pertl, um, Get With the Programming. Like there's literally so many. But you have those kind of shows or those kind of outlets. And I think the thing, like, so I remember when I had Savannah on the show before, or if I mentioned that I was listening to his show, God, I went very blurry there. I'd get like a few messages from people saying, "Oh, I don't know how you fucking listen to him," and it's like, well, it's pretty easy. Like, you just put the headphones in your ears and go. Um, but they were like, "Oh, I can't. Like, I don't agree with anything he says." And it's like, yeah, well, either do I. Like, I don't agree with everything he says. I agree with some stuff. I disagree with other stuff. But like, it's good to think, like, or to you know be pushed a bit, and to sometimes he starts making a point and I'm like, ah, that's fucking stupid, and then like halfway through it I'm like, oh, I suppose he kind of has a point there. I just actually never really thought about it. Other times I come out of it thinking like, nope, still disagree with him. And sometimes he starts talking and I'm immediately like, yep, I'm on board, I totally agree with what you're saying there. But it doesn't, like, just because I vehemently disagree with one thing that he says doesn't mean I can't agree with something else that he says further down the line. Like it's like, I made this analogy. Maybe I shouldn't make this analogy again because I already used it today. But it's like listening to it, like Ignition by R. Kelly is a fucking brilliant song. But like R. Kelly is a shithead. Like, he's done awful things. Or like some of Michael Jackson's songs are great, but like it doesn't mean I like Michael Jackson the person. Now I do like Savan the person, and I'm not equating him to or what he does to what Michael Jackson does or did or what R. Kelly did. But I'm just saying that like you can separate the two, like you can separate the person from something that they've done. Like I think that's something that we've kind of lost a bit, where it's like someone does something and it's like, oh, now everything they've ever done or ever will do is like tarnished and you can never touch them again. And it's like, well, hang on, maybe it's just that one thing they said that you disagree with. So the next thing that they say could be like exactly in your wheelhouse, but you're going to totally disregard it just because of something that they said previously that you didn't like or whatever. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, basically, like you've got this choice. You can listen to Savan or don't. You can listen to Hiller or don't. Like some people absolutely love them and won't listen to anyone else, and everything they say is gospel. Fine. I'd still encourage you to maybe like listen to other stuff as well. Some people won't listen to them at all and will only listen to Talking Elite Fitness, or will only read Morning Chalk Up, or will only listen to, whatever else. And again, I'd say that's fine, but maybe you should be listening to more than one input, so you're not just in this echo chamber of like everything is great and there's nothing wrong with anything and everything's fine. Like sometimes you do need that, like most things are fine, but this is pretty shitty and it needs to be fixed, or a just different opinion, I suppose. um I think that there's been a shift in that kind of off-site media recently. So since Savan came around, I think before that there was everything is rosy and everything is great, and like we won't complain about anything because you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you. So you had there was a definite, like I noticed a lot with, say, Talking Leaf Fitness. They're both employed by CrossFit, so it'd be pretty awkward if they started slating the company that, like, puts food on their table essentially for, a certain amount of months of the year anyway. So it kind of was a bit like vanilla-ish or something, a very like safe and like, no, don't rock the boat. Like, same with Morning Chalk Up, where they were the only outlet available. So if CrossFit wanted to get a story out there, or if Morning Chalk Up wanted a story, they needed to get it off CrossFit to share, like, the competition information or whatever. So again, you're not going to bite the hand that feeds you. So what was kind of starting to happen was the press releases were just going from CrossFit into Morning Chalk Up. And then you just had this, they were your two outlets. They were the early adopters. They were your two outlets of this or this, like where are you going to get your news from? And then I think when Savan came around, it opened the door for more of us to get involved and to be more deeply involved in it. And, I don't really do news in that kind of way. I kind of do, like, I share a bit of good news stuff or competition stuff and that on the Instagram reels and stuff, but I don't really get involved in the news. But I kind of left it open for more people, like, say, Jason or Hiller or whoever, to come along. And, like, they're two very different styles, I suppose. Jason kind of, he very rarely gives his unbiased opinion on something. He generally says, just kind of poses questions and let you figure it out for yourself. Whereas Hiller will be like, no, like, he's going to give you his opinion on it. And, both are fine approaches. You just need to know what you're listening to, I suppose. The same, then you've got like all those shows that I mentioned at the start. Now you got this choice of, okay, like, I can read an article on Morning Chalk Up, and then I can also go to Barbell Spin and read an article about the same topic that might have a different spin on it, or that might have like a different viewpoint. And I can look at those two contrasting viewpoints and make my own educated decision. Or I can listen to Talking Elite Fitness interview Don Fowle, and I can listen to Savan interview Don Fowle, and I can take bits of both conversations and form an opinion on Don Fowle, rather than I'm only going to listen to Talking Fitness and I'm just going to take what I hear from them and him as absolute fact about this topic. Or I'm only going to listen to Savan and take it as absolute fact about this topic. I think now we have this, like, smorgasbord. I'm so happy I got to use that word. We have this smorgasbord of choice of, right, I'm going to listen to this person on this podcast, and I'm going to listen to this person on this video, and I'm going to listen to that video of Lauren Khalil talking to Dex Hopkins about the equipment list. And then I'm also going to listen to, Chase and Bill talk about it on their show. And I'm also going to listen to Brian Friend talk about it. Or I might read, Patrick Clark on fucking Barbend or whatever. You've got this choice now where you can actually, like, really absorb a lot of information, rather than just saying, like, well, I guess I'll just listen to Talking Elite Fitness, and then whatever they say is gold. That's just fact, because there's nothing else I can listen to, so I'll just take it from them, when they're employed by the company. But that's nothing against Talking Elite Fitness. I mean, I don't listen to it. I don't really like it that much. Because I suppose I've already said it. I just find it a bit vanilla, or a bit kind of safe. But yeah, no, I've nothing, like, all the shows I mentioned, I have, like, tried to listen to, or I've tried to engage with, and I don't really have anything bad to say about any of them. Like, I don't want to yuck anyone's yum. If you love Talking Elite Fitness, go for it. Like, I'm not, I'm not going to be like, oh, fucking Egypt, shouldn't be listening to that. I won't judge anyone for listening to something, or for liking something, or, like, for not liking. I just think that you should always try it, and, like, with an open mind, try it, not just listen to it 5 seconds, be like, nope, knew it, and turn it off. I've proved my point. I think you should actually really try it. But I think from the can the media be saved, I think that's where it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen with more choice, and it's going to happen with more people putting in effort. Like the t-shirts I brought out there last week, on the back, like, raise the tide. Like, that's what's happening, is you've got people like Savan, who is not afraid to say the name of other shows on his show, or who will have people from other shows on his show. Or you'll have, like, there was a thing before, you could see it so much, like, where someone they'll talk about someone on their show, but they won't actually name the show. They won't name the person they're talking about, because they're afraid that, I don't know what the fuck they're afraid of, but they're afraid of the competition, or, like, giving them, it's like this, it's like a TV show TV station won't name another TV station because it doesn't exist if we don't talk about it. Like, we're not fucking stupid. We know if you're listening to, like, I don't know, if you're listening to a show and you hear them talking about an interview that you know you've listened to on another show, but they refuse to reference the fact that they're taking quotes or taking questions from another interview, that's just shitty. Like, that's a shitty thing to do, to not give credit where it's due. But I think now, because you have all this choice, now you get to listen to all this different stuff, and I think that's going to save media. It's going to, like, when the tide is rising, like, if Savannah is doing good episodes and putting out good content, that forces it forces people to pay attention to podcasts, because it makes podcasts and like, it shines a spotlight on all podcasts then. So that helps people like me, it helps people like Get With The Programming, it helps people like Scott at Clydesdale, or, you know, like, if Savan shares like Jason's video, that helps him. If, you know, by a much lesser magnitude, if I share Jason's video, it helps him, or vice versa. But the point is that if a show is doing well, it helps all shows, provided that everyone is aware of the fact that they're all feeding from the same trough. And it's a bit shitty if you're like, oh, well, I actually heard, I heard, now this hasn't happened in recent memory anyway, but just hypothetically, I heard Fraser on another podcast and he said this about Mal. And it's like, oh, just name the fucking podcast. Like, just say the name of the podcast. Don't be a dick. Like, don't be an asshole. Like, why are you being so selfish? Name the show that you listen to. And you'd also get other people who like, just won't listen to any other shows, because I don't know why, but maybe they're afraid that they realize that they're not actually as good as they think they are, or like there might be better people out there. I'm also aware that I'm sounding really fucking bitter now, and I don't mean to be. But they're just two of the gripes that I have, like not giving credit where it's due, or being afraid to name other shows on your show. I just think is really shitty. It's really like it's a really insecure thing to do or something. It's a bit of a baby dick move, I think. But yeah, I think those kind of things will save media if it needs to be saved. I think inside HQ, I don't know, like I don't really know enough about it. To be honest, I'd listen to Savan on that kind of stuff because he worked there and he, you know, was involved in probably the most successful period of the media in there. And he seems to think that there's a lot of work needed, and the people that are on his show agree with him that there's a lot of work needed. So, you know, maybe go to him to listen about that kind of stuff, because like I said, the affiliate marketing here is a lot different. It's a lot less impactful, I think, or a lot less present. Like you've got Carl Stedman doing the CrossFit Era and UK Instagram page. And you've got like those kind of affiliate owners sharing each other's stuff and sharing their own stuff and that kind of thing. But I don't know how much like advertising or how much media is being done around affiliates, unless I'm just not seeing it. Which I suppose is another problem. If it's there and I'm not seeing it, then maybe it needs more in there. I think. Can competition be saved? I think it's doing pretty good. I think like Wodapalooza, I mean, fucking hell, every time a team is announced, I've lost count the amount of times I've been like, well, no one's going to beat them. Then another team will come out and I'll be like, well, no one's going to beat them. Like that's going to be just ridiculous. I think this, like at the time, I remember when it came out first being like, oh, that's a bit shit. Like 2 days, bit rough if you're a UK athlete or an Irish athlete going over for 2 days. But like, it seems to be just pulling in huge names. Obviously, they've got decent sponsors. You know, like if you can see James Newbury, Janikowski, and Nick Matthew on a team together, it's just like, what? Sorry, where did that come from? Like, where did those three people? I've been calling that team the slot machine team because it was just like they pulled it, and I was like, ching Janikowski, ching James Newbury, ching Nick Matthew. It's like, how did the three of those people end up together? But like, I'm fucking here for it. It's epic. Like, I love it. Like you could have said the same last year, I suppose, about like Matt DeLugo and those two guys, and you know that it seems to have changed the three of their year. And it was really enjoyable to watch. So like, you know, I love it. I love the randomness of the teams are just amazing. It's so funny. But yeah, I think Wodapalooza is like, it's going to change the game, I think, a bit for live in-person competition. I think there's always going to be those four. There's going to be like Wodapalooza. Well, we'll start. So Rogue in October, Dubai in December, Wodapalooza in January, and then I think you're going to have, you know, like something slotting in around those. You're going to have like four pillars of the off season. I'd say maybe Madrid would be the fourth at the minute anyway. Sorry, of four competitions in the off season that the big athletes will do, and they'll pick maybe one or two from those four. So you'll do Rogue and Wodapalooza, or Rogue and Dubai, or Dubai and Madrid, or whatever, depending on what you qualify for or what you're invited for. So I think those will be the off season ones, the big off season ones. But you'll always have those ones like Butcher's Classic and those kind of competitions that slot in around those, like German Throwdown, and those are, if Filthy 150 goes back to the kind of global focus. I know this year they had a community focus, but you'll have those ones that are just below that upper echelon that I mentioned. And I think in there as well, you're going to fit in stuff like Fit Wars, and like similar kind of things like that, and Zalos games that are like an online version that are less commitment dense for athletes. Like, they don't have to fly somewhere, they don't have to do like travel or that kind of stuff. They might only have to do one workout, just have a good setup and be done. I think that's going to help it as well, and it's going to make it more attainable. What tips an event over to the upper echelon in the off season? Oh, money, like, and just gravitas. So like Dubai does invites. Did it do invites this year? Maybe it didn't. But anyway, it has done invites in the past. Rogue does invites. Rogue is always going to just be the top whatever of the games, plus one or two extra. I think it was 5 extra this year, was it? But that's always just going to be, it's perfectly timed. So is Wodapalooza. Perfectly timed in the off season to not impact things or to not fuck up months of training or whatever. And then I think if you can have your competition between, say, Halloween and like the end of January, if you can have your competitions in there, you're perfect. Because if you spill over beyond into the last week of January, then you're going to affect the Open if you're traveling and that kind of stuff. And if you go too far the other side of October, you're going to have people who are like, the game's just over, I haven't really had that much of an off season, etc. So, and then the other upper echelon thing, like, you want to have the gravitas of like the name of the event, the standard of the event, the history of the event, how popular has it been, how well run is it, how well respected is it, is it worthwhile going to, is there money for it? Like Dubai, that's one of the main things that Dubai is. Just qualifying, you make back a chunk of change for your flights just by qualifying. With Rogue, you get a per diem or whatever you call it for travel and that kind of stuff. I think with Wodapalooza, it's just so fun that people are keen to do it. And Wodapalooza, it's a big one for the sponsors as well, I think. I don't know, I'm not really sure why. I think it's because it just has such a big vendor village, but as well, it's really well shared. Like, all their stuff is it's really visible on Instagram and YouTube and stuff. So if you have a brand who's like, right, we want to make a team. Like, if I was making a team somehow, I don't know, I came into a bit of money and I was like, right, I'm going to make a team. I'd send them to Wodapalooza. I'd pick a team of 3. I'd pick like fun people. I'd send them to Wodapalooza. I'd hope they finish like top 10 and get a bit of attention. Even if they don't do well, I hope they get a bit of attention beforehand, so it helps them and me. Like, that's what you're looking for as a sponsor, really. So yeah, I think that those are the big all-season events. But I think Fit Wars and Zalos Games are going to slot in around those, and they're going to make waves in the next few years, I think. What else then? I've kind of covered more or less everything. Come up about an hour. I kind of covered more or less everything I wanted to. So the next year then for the show, going to Wodapalooza in January, all going well there. We'll see what else crops up with the rest of the year. I'd love to go to the games, but we'll see. Or maybe semi-finals. They're on in Berlin. They were released there last week, so that's maybe attainable. I think that's the June bank holiday weekend, so that wouldn't be too bad. The book, hopefully, maybe the games, not really sure. And then just keep. I haven't missed an episode. I haven't missed a Wednesday in the 3 years, so I'd like to keep that going, as long as I can, anyway. And yeah, if there's no other questions, I think I've kind of more or less covered everything that I was intending on covering. So I suppose that's more or less it. Thank you for listening. I hope I covered the questions that were asked on Instagram the other day. I think I have. Have I got a roommate for Wodapalooza are going solo again there? I'm going solo. So there's obviously people coming over, like people going to it as well, but I booked my hotel and my flights and everything, and I'm going solo with that. And yeah, thanks for listening, thanks for engaging. this was to get me out of my comfort zone. So there's a guest coming on the show next week. I'm recording with them on Tuesday. I'm releasing on Wednesday, and they asked like, "Oh, are we going live?" And I said, "No, fuck that. I don't have the balls for that. I'm not doing that." And then I heard, so Savan was talking about it on his show. He was saying, "Oh, it's like, so Savannah's coming on next week." I don't know why it was so mysterious there. Just in case he cancels, I guess. So Savan was talking about his show. He was saying that he's doing my show next week, and he asked if we were going live, and he couldn't understand for a few minutes. He couldn't understand why I was so nervous about going live, and then he remembered how nervous he used to get at the start. And I was like, you know what, fuck it, I will go live. So I decided to do this as a live episode instead of a pre-recorded one. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And this is me on my own. Like, fucking hell, it's hard to just talk to yourself. But I assume it would be easier. But I don't know if I'll do. I suppose the main issue I have with doing a live episode is that you're really rigidly stuck to that time. Then, if you tell people we're going to go live at 8 p.m. and you don't, you're letting people down. Whereas if you just say I will have an episode out every Wednesday, you've got more time. But yeah, anyway, this is getting out of my comfort zone. I enjoyed it. Thank you for listening and for the last 3 years, and we'll go for another, I don't know, 3 or 4 more anyway. But thanks. I really appreciate everyone who listens, everyone who shares. Like I said at the start, if Fraser's on the show, nobody needs, I mean, it's great if you share it, it's great, but nobody needs to share that because people will search his name anyway. But it's the other ones, it's the smaller ones that need, like a comment or a like on a post makes a big difference. Because it might put it into someone else's feed who's also interested in similar things as you. Or if you're on YouTube, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, or if you're listening on Spotify or whatever else. Come on, Bruce. If you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or whatever, subscribe and rate or review or whatever, because again, all that stuff makes a big difference. Because it just shunts it up a bit in people's suggestions when they log on. Like, I know when I log on to my app, I get loads of, if I go on Spotify, I get loads of suggestions about shitty kids music because that's what Sloan listens to. So if you listen to CrossFit podcasts or fitness podcasts and someone else has rated or reviewed the show, it's more likely to pop up on your little suggestion thing. Same on YouTube, same on Instagram. If you like or comment on a post, it makes it more likely that that post will appear in someone else's suggestions or on their search page or something. So it's not just a case of, oh, please like my post, I really like being liked. It's more a case of, if you like this post, then someone in your age demographic or your location who also likes fitness or CrossFit stuff or similar things that you like might now see this post, and then they might start listening or start enjoying it. So that's why I ask. It's not just because it vindicates what I'm doing or whatever. Speaking of vindicate, if you ever want to be brought back down to earth, do a t-shirt pre-sale. I think we sold 5 t-shirts in the US. So as I talked about confidence and getting over feelings of being a fraud, 5 t-shirts on pre-sale will do that. That'll bring you right back down again. But those t-shirts, actually, I think they're going to be at Wodapalooza because you need a minimum order, so I have to just pay for the rest. So if you're at Wodapalooza and you want to buy a t-shirt, you can do that. The other ones, I have t-shirts. I think I have 5 mediums and 2 larges left of these. These ones, pretty nice. So I got like 5 mediums and 2 larges, I think. And you can get those on coffeepodsandwads.com, or send me a message. And I have 2 coffee mugs left, a black and a black, 2 blacks. If you want to order one of them, actually, I have labels. So if you want to order one of them, and I'll pay for the postage because I have it prepaid. But they're nice little, it's a slidey thing and it's airtight. Nice. They're nice. But if you want one, you'll pay for the fucking mug, but I'll pay for your shipping, because I got labels today and I have extras left over. If you ordered a t-shirt off me in the last few days, they'll get there after Christmas, they said. So that'll be a belated Christmas present. But thank you for listening. I'm finished now. I'm gonna go and relax for a while. Enjoy your Christmas, enjoy your new year. Savannah's on the show next Wednesday, and then on New Year's Eve there'll be a review of 2022 with Chase and Bill from Get With The Programming and Brian from the Barbell Spin. So there'll be the four of us talking about everything that happened in the year. And we'll be naming some of our favorite moments, favorite athletes, favorite competitions, favorite events, all that kind of stuff. So that'll be New Year's Eve. And then not really sure what's happening in January yet, but I have a few people lined up. So we'll keep you posted. So thank you. Thanks for the last 3 years, and we'll keep going.